So do people say that you're immature? Well, actually, it could be autism, and I'm going to break that down for you right now. Here are 5 things that seem immature and childish, but they're actually related to autism. All that's coming up. Okay, so the first one I'm going to talk about here, childish fears or phobias. Now, autistic individuals, autistic adults like myself, can sometimes have fear of things that maybe seem childish, like fear of the dark, fear of balloons popping. Now, myself, I had a phobia of the dark for many, many, many years, right up until I was maybe 35, 36. And it's taken me a while to kind of overcome that. But I eventually did overcome that kind of unwritten fears. But why do they happen? Why are they there? What does this mean? And people think these things are childish because when you're a full-grown adult who has children, people think that you should be able to deal with things. Like, nobody's scared of the dark. And when you're a dad and a man, you're supposed to be this masculine, idol and figure for your kids, and you're scared of the dark or balloons popping. It's quite weird, right? For people to say, this isn't very grown-up or adult-like. Now, the fear of balloons popping is a really good example to explain how these things work, and the fear of the dark, which I'll break down right now. So I have a phobia of balloons, but it's a phobia of balloons popping. And I can be in a room with balloons, if it's just me and the balloons in there, for a little bit of time. Any longer than that, I'm scared that the temperature will change, or the wind will move them around, or something will happen and one of them will pop. And it's the unexpected loud sound. So there's 2 things that happen there. One is the unexpected. Autistic individuals like to know what's going to happen next. They like routine, they like structure, and they like the repetitiveness of something. And they like that because it's predictable. And predictable means not scary, less fear of the unknown, because we are looking for comfort for things that we do not understand. Balloons popping unexpectedly is a reminder that we can't control something, or that the routine is out of kilt. And it's like, and it shocks us. It kind of feels like somebody's throwing me into an ice cold water bath. It's horrible. Now, also, sensory processing issues. People on the autism spectrum have sensory processing issues, which means that they may hear sound way louder than it actually is, or they may smell things more intensely than the average person, or the most typical person, or someone who isn't autistic. And all these things are kind of combined and they get kind of mushed into one. And it's those things that give us these fears. Now, the fear of the dark is more of an OCD, which comes alongside autism or comorbid, comes with. And that basically means that putting the light off, I was always fearful that something bad would happen, right? So rather than the actual light being off and me scared of ghosts or whatever, it wasn't that, or the boogeyman or whatever, but it was more to do with if I turn the light off, something bad's going to happen. So I had to go through therapy to kind of get rid of that. So on the surface, what seems like a childish phobia, fear of the dark or balloons or birthday parties, actually has a deeper meaning, and this is part of the autism spectrum condition. And so this is why it's important to understand this. Now, the next one I'm going to talk about is collecting things like toys. Now, a lot of people will think, only children buy toys, right? And actually, on the contrary, there are a lot of toy collectors who are museum owners, or they just want to complete a set because maybe, they're into that genre specific, and that genre has toys in the merchandise line, etc. But specifically, autistic individuals will gravitate towards toys in general because the toys represent a lot of different things. And I'll give you an example. So for me, I like collecting action figures that are made out of plastic and resin because there's a few things. The colors, the detail in them really make me urge myself towards it, to look at it. Wow, this is really interesting. It's fascinating. And the detail, the paintwork, and actually the smell and the feel of the plastic actually is sensory pleasing for me. Again, part of the autism spectrum disorder, having a sensory processing issue actually depicts that you will be sensory seeking and sensory avoidant in certain things, right? Depending which way around they go. And so for me, action figures are more than just what seems like a toy. It's not something that I'm playing with. I'm not going home and playing with toys, right? It's actually something more deeper than that. And so the second level of that, and why we collect things on the autism spectrum, like toys or gadgets or gizmos or comic books or something that may seem childish, is because those things are able to be categorized in either numbers or genres or editions or episodes. And this categorization or genreization is really soothing to the autistic brain, because it's like Pokemon, right? We have 100 Pokemon on the first ever Pokedex, or 101. And it's kind of like that was the base set, and they have 3 evolutionary stages. And so it's nice to organize and categorize it, because organization means predictable outcome or potential predictable outcome, which again means safety and security for autistic people. So autistic individuals may collect things that on the surface seem quite childish, but they're not. Now, if I just called you out on collecting toys and comic books, then you've got to give this video a thumbs up. Number 3 is carrying a comfort item. Now, I recently had this really interesting experience, and you should be able to relate to this. Autistic individuals will carry a comfort item. Now, I don't mean that they're going to walk around with like a smelly blankie that, you know, like kids do sometimes. You see like little babies have like their comfort blanket or a comfort toy or something like that. But it is similar, and it has a very similar process. Oh, by the way, guys, my name is Dan, and I have autism and ADHD. So if you're new around here and you want to learn more about this stuff I'm talking about right now, just hit the subscribe button here on YouTube and follow along on Facebook for more videos like this. So in terms of the carry along, I realized something that I have an attachment to as a carry along comfort that I didn't even realize until this moment. I just went to VidCon in the United States, and I was appearing there at VidCon, and whilst I was getting my stuff packed, I was like, where are my nail clippers? You know, the little nail clippers. I was like, where are my nail clippers? And then I couldn't find them, and I was freaking out. And I was like, I've never traveled without them, because they're good, they're quite expensive, they're heavy, and they do the job. And one thing I don't like is being untidy, and I don't want my nails to be long or grow when I'm away. And it's not nice for men to have long nails, right? So I was always conscious of this. And so I was like freaking out. I had some backup ones which aren't as good, which I ended up taking. But dude, like it almost came down to like me, like being like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, I have to find these right now. Like, I would do anything in that moment to find those nail clippers. We found out that our niece had borrowed them, and she's gone to Europe for a couple of days. But at the time, I was like freaking out. But why? Because that thing may seem insignificant or may seem childish to have like a comfort toy, teddy. It could be anything. It could be a wallet, a hat. You know, I have comfort beanies for many years. I had a comfort beanie. It was big orange, like NFT, Adidas. I had this beanie with it, and I loved it. But it was my comfort blanket for many years. And I also have a hoodie, like a black hoodie that has like a YouTube Shorts logo on the side of it. And I wear that all the time because it's comforting. And what I do is I put my hood up, and it makes me feel kind of like very satisfied in the moment. So I know I can calm down and deregulate in there. So in terms of why we carry these, those things represent to us stability and calm and organization in our life. We know that we have those things. It represents stability for us, which represents predictable outcomes, which again gives us this comfort, right? And so I love that. And by the way, guys, if you're loving these, I have another 2 videos on this that's coming up in this series. So make sure you follow along, because this is only part 1. There's a part 2 as well. Comfort item is very interesting, but it exists because those things solve a problem in our life that, hey, you know, like maybe I want to feel more comfortable, and I want to, I want to decompress and regulate, so I'm going to use my hoodie. Or, hey, I'm worried about my nails growing, but I know that I've got those clippers. Anytime I travel, that's cool. And it's funny, actually, those clippers specifically, I've never been without them for about 20 years. Really interesting. Okay, so the next one is oral stimming, right? Oral stimming. So there's a term in autism called stimming, which stands for self-stimulatory behavior, or STIM, or stimming for short. And that basically means that we do things like, you can rock side to side. I mean, sometimes I twiddle my fingers. We rock backwards and forwards. We like restless leg syndrome. Our legs keep going. But a lot of the time, it's chewing on something, like chewing on your collar of your shirt or hoodie, or the laces of your hoodies. Like, how many people do that? If I just called you, you've got to comment down below and be like, Dan, this is me. Like, I chew my clothes. Because like when I was a kid, I used to chew my clothes, and I'd have holes here and on my sleeves and on the tassels of my clothes. And it just got crazy. But that chewing sensation is really calming. And it's interesting because a lot of people say, well, kids chew their clothes, you know, don't be so childish. But it's not that. It's because that it's stimming. It's a stim to chew on something, to get that like feedback, so that you can feel regulated and comfort. And it's really interesting. I find this really common, and a lot of people don't even talk about this or even know about it, right? They'd be like, oh man, I thought it was just weird. But it's not that. It's because you're regulating, right? You're trying to regulate. And I actually have some hacks for this. If you're interested, you can go to www.autismhacks.net and download my free Autism Life Hacks book. And if you put your details into it, you can actually get the site to suggest specific hacks for the things that you are most having difficulty with in your life. And that's completely free. The link will be down below. Like I said, just go to www.autismhacks.net. Okay, so in terms of oral stimming, there are ways we can overcome this, ways we can help with it. You can buy like chewable toys, stim toys for autistic adults. There are a bunch of different ones. And also, I found that chewing gum is very cool because chewing gum obviously replaces that need to chew anything else and also helps you keep concentrated. So that's a really good one, actually, because I know that it destroys clothes and it can be quite embarrassing. You've got chew marks all over your clothes and you're going to, like, you know, meeting family friends. You're like, oh, hey, I chew my clothes. And so they may present that as being something that children do and it's childish, but in actual fact, it's something autistic individuals do, and it could be just because you're on the spectrum. So the next one I'm talking about here is meltdowns and shutdowns. And we all know that kids have meltdowns, right? And normally these meltdowns are called tantrums. And these tantrums come because the kids are trying to gain control of a situation to get the upper hand or to take, like, a liberty over the parents, right? It's a kind of a way of control within the group. And this is something that children learn. They need to learn the hierarchy, and the parents are the people who are in charge of the decisions, they make the rules, blah, blah, blah. Now, what's interesting about this is autistic individuals will continue this type of behavior, but not based on wanting to control things to get the upper hand like a child would do. You know, like maybe extending their bedtime or having like candy or something that they, you know, parents say no to. The meltdown will happen because an overload of sensory input could be lots of loud noises, lots of light, maybe lots of people, lots of decisions. Maybe people are asking a lot of you, and because of that, you're like overwhelmed, overstimulated, and you just and you can like just melt down. So it would be crying, screaming, emotional outbursts. And this is really interesting because like what normally happens, we start hitting our head as autistic individuals. Hitting our head is one of those kind of telltale signs that is kind of like an autism meltdown or a shutdown. And a shutdown is like a meltdown, but without the emotional outburst. It's like a complete just going into yourself and you're shutting down and just reclusively going into apathy. Now, why does this happen? Because there is only so much that the autism brain can take. There's only so much a brain can take, but an autistic person is constantly trying to sift through all the things around them in the world that they live in, where all of this sensory input is being fed in. And so you're already kind of just at the tip of what you can handle. So if anything else comes on top of that, it's a no-go.